Hello, my dear.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. Just trying to set up. I literally just jumped off a call with Laura.
Oh, yeah? How's she doing? Can you see me or just hear me?
I just hear you.
Let's see. How about now? Is that
There
better?
you go. I see you.
Okay, cool. I can't really see myself, so hopefully I'm decent.
You can't see yourself? You look great.
Okay. Well, it's a little thing.
We have a few people waiting. I'm gonna put Lauren in just so we run through everything real quick. Sorry if you hear any noises. It's my dog.
You can't see my screen though, right? Because I'm gonna just put my bullet points on there. You just see me, right?
I just see you, yeah.
Okay, cool. Oh yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Hi. Good. How are you?
Good. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Oh, that's right. You guys haven't met yet.
No, we haven't.
Yeah. We have quite a few people. We have 5 people waiting already. So that's awesome because usually people come in last minute. So I guess 1 o'clock is a good time.
Yeah, seriously.
How are you doing?
Good. You know, we're still here. We're seeing, I see patients 3 days a week, and then the rest of the time is functional medicine and you know, the coaching on Tuesdays and Fridays. I do that from home. I don't necessarily come in here and do that. So it's good. It's been, you know, slower than usual in the office because people are afraid to go out or whatever, but busier than most, I think, you know, from what, you know, just in talking to my colleagues and stuff, I'm kind of surprised that we're as busy as we are.
Selfie time before the start. Hi, Lauren.
Hi.
All right, awesome. So we're gonna start. It's already recording. Let me pause the recording real quick. Recording, and here we go. It's all yours.
Awesome. Great. Well, hi everyone. I am Dr. Aixa Goodrich, and as Kristina just mentioned, I have been a chiropractor for over 20 years, if you can believe that. I'm also a functional medicine practitioner and transformational life coach. And so my mission in life is really to improve lives. I do that whether it's physically with a physical ailment, emotionally sometimes, mentally, which is what we're going to talk about today, and sometimes even spiritually. So I want to kind of like jump right in because I know some of you are pressed for time, and I really want to allow for some questions at the end if anyone has any. So the first thing that I learned this quite a bit ago was this wonderful little formula that I use pretty much on every single occasion where I'm presented with a situation. And I hope you have something to write with. Otherwise, this is going to be recorded, so you'll have some, you know, you can revert back to this. But essentially, the formula is E plus R equals O. And what that stands for is the E is an event, right? Plus the R could be one of two things. It could be a reaction, or it could be a response. And there's two very different things. A reaction is just a visceral gut reflex, and a response is a thought out logical response, right? So you thought about it, you made a logical decision, and that's how you're going to respond to a certain event. And depending on whether you react or you respond, the outcome is going to be different, right? So that's really important. And I want you guys to think of that formula going forward. Anytime there's an event in your life, whether it's good or bad, and you're looking for an outcome in your favor, make sure that you're responding and not reacting. So that formula is going to come in very handy throughout this whole process. Now, so we had this event, and we're going to talk about what the current situation is with this whole pandemic. So there was an event, and most people's response was go into fear mode. Oh my God, what's going to happen? What am I going to do? What about my business? What about my family? What about my employer, my employment? So, you know, what's going to happen? But I want to remind you that fear doesn't necessarily stop death or disaster. It basically just stops life. And so that's really important to understand. So we're going to jump into the next R because there's 5 keys. And this next R, which is my favorite, is resilience, right? So the whole talk today is about creating or developing a mindset of resilience. So I'm going to share with you 5 key factors to developing a mindset of resilience. So I hope you guys are ready to jump in. And obviously, if you found the chat and you have questions along the way, I'll be more than happy to answer, or maybe just at the end, okay? So the first key to developing a mindset of resilience is self-awareness. I think it's quite important to become self-aware. How are you coping or not coping? You know, some people went out and bought way too much toilet paper, right? So they went into fear mode, they freaked out, they went and bought too much toilet paper. I still haven't figured out why, but they did. Some people that maybe were occasional drinkers are now binge drinking. They're drinking every single day. Maybe they're eating too much. You bought food for 30 days of quarantine, and all of a sudden on day 2, you've already eaten through 30 days of snacks, right? And then the other thing that we are maybe not aware of, or maybe a way to cope, is to turn to social media, or turn to social media or mainstream media, and both of them are just so negative sometimes. You know, let's use these, like at least social media, in a positive light. So I think that the first thing we need to become aware of is, how are we coping or not coping? So becoming self-aware is crucial and is key. And ask yourself, how is the way that I'm acting, or better yet, reacting, either helping or hurting the situation? So typically, when we're faced with an event that's typically a surprise, right? We want to place blame. And what happens with blame is that every time you point a finger at someone, there's 3 more fingers pointing at you, because we all have to take personal responsibility. And that's one of my other favorite R's, is taking personal responsibility. So blame comes from a place where you're contracting, where you are retreating. It doesn't come from a place of growth. So placing blame on anything or anyone is not going to help any situation that you might be facing. So it's quite important to use these tools to help you become more self-aware. Now, I think this tool that I'm going to give you next, I think comes in really, really handy in terms of understanding your awareness, your self-awareness. And I think journaling is probably one of my favorite tools to do this, because I think it's important to record what's going on in your mind, so you can see where you're operating from. Are you operating from a place of fear? Are you operating from a place of anger? So I would suggest keeping a journal with you at all times or nearby. And I prefer like the good old fashioned, you know, hand paper and pen, rather than keeping something on your notebook. I know some of you techie people might disagree with me, but I think it's important to have something that you can feel in your hands. And make time every day to write what your thoughts are, how you're feeling, and more importantly, what were your successes for the day? So we know that we are in a current situation where there's not a lot of great stuff happening, but you know what, there really is. So you need to figure out, what are some of your successes that have happened since this whole thing started? You know, I know the environment is a lot cleaner. So there's things that we can point out, but I don't want to divert this too much. But it's important to write down what your successes and what your wins are, because we always tend to focus on the one thing that went wrong throughout our day, or throughout our week, or throughout our month, or throughout our life. You know, so we focus on that one negative thing. 99 things could have happened that were absolutely phenomenal and fantastic, and we focus on the one person that cut us off at 8 o'clock in the morning. I mean, come on, people, let's give each other some credit here. We are better off than most people. You know, at least I'd like to think. I always try to see the positive in that. The other thing about journaling is, when you go back and as you read it and self-reflect, you can ask yourself, are you being a leader? You know, in times of need, are you leading? Are you leading by example? Or are you just following the herd? Are you just following everybody else, freaking out, buying too much toilet paper, or whatever it is that people do when they freak out, okay? And if you're not being a leader, then what would a leader do? What would a leader do differently? And who are your leaders? Who do you mirror? Who do you model? I think it's important to always have a leader, somebody to look up to and be like, what would so-and-so do? How would so-and-so react? And I use that often when I'm faced with a situation. I have a great mentor, and I always ask myself, what would Larry do? What would Larry say? And I always use him, because then I can come from a place of objectivity instead of a place of reacting and having like this visceral response, or having like coming from a place of fear or anger. So it's important to have that person in your life. Now, the other thing about having self-awareness is that you get a sharp realization of who you are, what your personality is, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses. So when you go back and you read your journal, you also discover, what are your thoughts? What are your beliefs? What are your emotions? And most importantly, what are your motivations or lack thereof? So I think that's one of the most important keys, is becoming self-aware. I think the next point that I want to make, the next key, is self-control. You know, some people are just totally out of control. You see this now. I mean, it's just insane. I mean, just turn on Facebook or social media and you'll be like, oh, people are totally freaking out. So, I mean, I've heard people say, but these are scary times. These are, you know, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm scared. And I understand that. But the truth is that I imagine that in your life, you have faced at some point or another a crisis and you've survived. And if you look back at human history, we faced so many crises before, and you know what's happened? We've overcome, we've survived, and we thrive, right? Because we are resilient human beings. And I want to remind you that whatever the situation is, we're talking about this current situation, but in any situation, understand that this too shall pass. And I think that it's important to understand that day will turn to night, night will turn to day, this too shall pass, and you will become stronger and more resilient. And hopefully you will learn the lesson is for whatever the circumstance is at the moment. So I think that's important to understand. And instead of running with a crowd, ask yourself great questions such as, how can I be the exception? How can I not be that crazy person? How can I not be the toilet paper guy, right? How can I navigate this in a more logical and productive way? And I find that when you ask yourself great questions, you inevitably will find creative solutions. I mean, there's just no other way around that. And another great question that I like to ask is, are you sticking to your routines? Now, some of you may be like, what routine? Like, I don't have a routine. Well, if you don't have one, then this is a time to develop one, because structure is essential to be successful. I mean, there's just no way around that. And as a reminder, we're not waiting to get back to life. Life is happening right now. Where it's happening might be different. So instead of going into the office, you may be at home on your kitchen counter or on your couch or on a lazy boy or whatever, right? With a crick in your neck, you can give us a call. We'll help you with that too. Or maybe you're not doing face-to-face meetings like, you know, Kristina and I would get together every once in a while and just kind of like hash things out and, you know, kind of come up with creative ideas. And now we're meeting on Zoom, but it's still a great way to do business. So life has changed. The way we do things has changed, but that doesn't mean that life stops. Life is still going on, and that's really important to understand. So I can't tell you how important it is, or I could tell you, I'm telling you, to stick to your routines and even perhaps improve the ones that you might already have. And like I said, if you don't have any routines or structure, then this is a perfect time to implement those. And what I mean by that is, you know, you may not be going into the office, but you know what? You should still wake up at the same time. You should still do your morning routine. I call mine the hour of power. And that's essential. So when I don't do it because whatever life gets in the way, or I, for whatever reason, didn't get to it that day, my day is not as smooth as it usually could be or would be. So a morning routine is essential. The other thing is getting to exercise and eating nutritious meals. Look, you need to be healthy. I don't care how much money you have in the bank. If health is wealth, and if you don't have your health, you will eventually suffer in the long run. So it doesn't matter how much money you have in your bank account. So exercise, creating a structure for that and a routine for that, eating nutritious meals is extremely important, because that's going to keep you sharp, agile, and successful for sure. The other thing is showering. I know this may sound really weird, but I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and she's like, yeah, I haven't showered in 2 days. My hair is up in a bun. I haven't even gotten out of my PJs because I'm so like bummed out. And I'm like, you call me back when you take a shower. And I hung up on her, right? And I said, you just call me back when you take a shower. And I literally hung up on her. So she calls me back a few minutes later, and she's like, well, not a few, but it's probably like 20 minutes later. Hopefully she actually did take a shower. I don't know. And she said, well, I took a shower and got dressed. I feel so much better. And I said, exactly. You need to, it's just an important part of your daily routine. You would do it any other day. Why not now? And lastly, you need to get after it. Okay. Stop waiting around for things to go back to normal. We don't know what that's going to be or when it's going to be or anything like that. So you have to get after it right now. This is a great time to review your goals and your plans and determine what you need to adjust. And again, if you don't have goals and you don't have a plan, then this is the perfect time to do that. And it's also important to regularly review your goals and your plans and what you want to accomplish, because every decade of your life is going to be a little different. For me, my 20s were very different than my 30s, and now very different in my 40s. So it's you need to review those. And I suggest that you review your goals on a daily basis. And if you can't do it on a daily basis, which you can, and you just need to create that into your routine, put that into your routine, then at least weekly, and just kind of change it as you go or as you need to. And then, of course, you don't want to get into the habit, and I find this happening way too often with some of my clients. You don't want to get into the habit of sleeping in and then jumping on social media first thing in the morning, or turning on the news at the crack of dawn, which is all bad news for the most part, or jumping into video games or TikToking or going on Netflix binges and going on bitch sessions about how bad life currently is, or, you know, your worries and fears. It's okay to express those in your journal and then adapt. So I want to urge you to be hyper protective of your mind. Excessive news watching, incessant emails and texts, and social media basically robs you of your focus. So I would say, you know, tread lightly when it comes to those. And I understand that people want to know and need to know what's going on in the world, but you definitely don't need that 24/7 bombardment of negativity. Okay, it's all fear-based and it doesn't help you in any way. And it's not going to grow your business or grow your bank account or grow your connections or your relationships. So it reminds me of a quote when I talk about this from Jim Rohn. And he says, stand guard of the door of your mind. So, and I'll repeat that again because it's so important. Stand guard of the door of your mind. You can't let anything and everything in here. You really need to protect yourself and surround yourself with like-minded people. And this is why when Kristina asked me to do this, I was like, absolutely, because I know the presenters are going to be amazing. And I know they're like-minded people, they're growth-oriented, and they're not going to shrink or go into a shell in adversity, during times of adversity or crises. So I hope you guys are following all so far, and we're going to move on to our third key. If you have any questions, chime in, and I'm here to answer your questions. So the third key is self-confidence. Self-confidence in the fact that we will overcome and we will definitely bounce back, okay? Anytime we've had a situation in human history, we've always overcome, we've always bounced back, and look at where we are today in terms of technology and everything else. So I think we always have an opportunity to improve ourselves, to better ourselves, to grow, and understanding that this is not the time to feel sorry for ourselves is crucial. This is when we should be planning our comeback. This is not a vacation. We're not waiting to get back to life. This is life, like I mentioned earlier. So we must be productive. We have to stick to routines and schedules and remain disciplined. I love that word, discipline. I think that's where really you can set yourself apart from your competition, is being disciplined. That will take you to another level for sure, 100%, absolutely. Okay. So do you have a job right now? Do you have a job right now? If you do, great. Think of how you can over deliver to your clients and or your company right now. If you have a job or if you own your own business, how can you over deliver to your clients? How can you set yourself apart from your competition or from your coworker? What can you offer to that company right now that is above and beyond what is expected of you? The other thing is, how can you restructure your business if you do have one, or your business model, in order to protect yourself in the future? If something like this was to happen again, 6 months down the line, a year, 10 years, another 20, whatever, are you protected? You know, what do you need to restructure? What can you do, again, to distinguish yourself from your competition? And what can you learn? You know, there's so much information out there. What do you need to learn to make yourself different? So for example, I know there's probably, I don't know, 64,000 chiropractors in the United States, but I know what makes me different. I bring so much more, and this is not to fluff me up, but I've wanted to learn about nutrition and functional medicine and mindset and how all that relates to chronic pain and inflammation and disease. So I'm one of few that do that. And that's how I incorporate it into my practice, but I'm constantly learning. For me, it's learning is crucial, and it's part of my daily life. And there's not a day that goes by that I don't have a book or listen to a podcast or a webinar. I don't do binges for the most part on Netflix or social media. I just don't do that. For me, it's about developing myself so that I can over deliver to my clients when they come to me for help and expertise. And improving systems. This is a great time to improve your systems if you already have some. And think of who can support you during this process. Like if you need to change your systems, learn something, who can you onboard? Who can you reach out to that would be willing to help you in times like this? Now, if you don't have a job, if you're listening to this and you don't have a job or a business right now, then guess what your job is? Your job is to retool yourself. Growth is your new job. That's what you're supposed to be doing right now. So put yourself on a work schedule to learn, to grow, to plan, and prepare for your comeback. That's your job. That's your new job. So I hope you're writing this down, or I hope you're going to go back and listen to this at a later time. So let's talk about this. Jot 3 things down if you have a pen and pencil, or if not, think about them real quickly. How can you improve your routines, your structures, and your health? The health component is so overlooked, and this drives me insane. I can tell you from my experience in working with top level CEOs and you know, gosh, thousands of patients throughout my career, that the health component is overlooked oftentimes. And I can tell you that if you're binge drinking, binge eating, binge Netflixing, not exercising, you're setting yourself up for failure, or worse yet, for a heart attack. And I'll tell you why. All of these behaviors, and generally a poor lifestyle, leads to chronic inflammation. And chronic inflammation has a direct and negative impact on your immune system, which is responsible for keeping you healthy. So everybody's waiting for a vaccine or for something to come out. And I tell my patients, no, what you need to do is start boosting your immune system. Start taking some vitamin C, start optimizing your vitamin D, take some zinc, take some vitamin A, and let's talk about other herbs that can keep you healthy and help fight off any disease, not just this virus, but any virus or any infection that might come your way. And the thing is that chronic inflammation and an altered immune response has been directly linked to heart disease, to autoimmune disorders, such as like rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, lupus, diabetes, thyroid disease. So it's important to keep inflammation down, and your diet is the #1 culprit, in addition to environmental toxins, emotional turmoil, and things like that. But the diet is crucial here. And some people may say, well, you know, I'm doomed. You know, I have a genetic predisposition. But I'm here to tell you that you can't blame your genes anymore. You can't blame your parents, your grandparents, because the genes only play a factor 5% of the time. Your lifestyle is really what's going to determine whether you turn that gene on or not, okay? And I see this all the time in my functional medicine practice. And I'll tell you a quick little story. Everybody in my family is a diabetic on my mom's side. So mom, aunt, grandmother, grandfather, cousins, I mean, you name it, anybody on my mom's side, diabetic. But so do I have that gene? Absolutely, I have that gene. But my lifestyle is completely different than theirs ever was or is. So I have control over whether that gene turns on or not. There might be a 5% chance that I may develop it, but it's not going to be because my lifestyle was pretty crappy and I wasn't taking care of myself. So that's important to recognize, okay? Now, our fourth key is connection. Human connection is just so important. This is an energy exchange between two people or more people, and it really has the power to inspire change and build trust, okay? So reaching out to your existing clients is probably a pretty good time to do right now. Pick up the phone, call, connect. Texting is cool, but calling is better. Ask them how they're doing. And if you're not currently working, let's say you've lost your job, you've been furloughed, your business went out of, you went out of business or what have you, reach out to your ideal employer or your ideal client. Let them know that you exist. Pick up the phone. Let them know what you bring to the table and ask them how you could help. And perhaps they're not in a position to hire you right now, but they will think of you. They will think of the time that so-and-so reached out to them to see how they were doing and offered help, even though they weren't being compensated for that. That's what adding value is all about, okay? And it's not just about your clients. This is a perfect opportunity to also reach out to your family and even your neighbors, even if it's just to say hello, to ask them how you can help during these trying times. It's a great opportunity to not only connect, but build relationships, and even more importantly, repair the relationships that have been, strained. I know life gets in the way and things happen, and sometimes relationships, can kind of wither away or be strained for whatever reasons. This is a perfect opportunity to say, hey, you know what? I was thinking about you. I care about you. And I know that this is trying times for you and so many other people, but I'm here for you. How can I help you? How can I be of service? And that goes a long way. And you may or may not be able to do something, but just the fact that you're there to listen is really going to make an impact, and it's going to be significant to that person. Okay. We just need human connection. I mean, think of the times when you were experiencing your highest highs, or let's say even your lowest lows. Were you alone? Probably not. You were probably with somebody. So reach out and touch someone today. Oh, that reminds me of that commercial. Reach out and touch someone. Okay, and lastly, this is my last point. The last key is contribution. So there are these 6 basic human needs according to Tony Robbins. And some of you may be familiar with that, or maybe even have even heard me speak about the 6 basic human needs, which are certainty, because we need to know that we're going to have food, shelter, and safety. We also need variety because we get bored easily. As you can see, we're jumping between Facebook and TikTok and Instagram and, you know, LinkedIn, and we're jumping all over because we get bored easily. We also need to feel significant, like we're actually important to someone, or that we're contributing something. It's also important to feel loved and to feel connected, which I just mentioned earlier, but also to grow. I think if we're not growing, we're dying. But lastly, it's contribution. I think contributing to humanity, to society, to another human being is where we really feel most significant. We feel most connected. We feel like we're growing. We feel like there's, you know, variety, but there's a, you know, so you basically encompass all the other basic human needs. And in terms of contribution, I want to just share with you that I really feel that the secret to living is giving. And I've heard Tony Robbins say this before. Life is not about me, it's really about we. So think about it. What's the first thing you do when you get good news or exciting news? Or you want to call somebody, you want to share it, you want to share the love, you want to share the emotion, right? So sharing enhances everything that you experience in life. And life is really about creating meaning. And meaning doesn't come from what you get, it really comes from what you can give. So what can you give right now? What can you give during these difficult times, especially during these difficult times, or, you know, anytime that somebody's going through a difficult situation? I think for one is knowledge. You know, knowledge is so important. What have you learned? And I think there's people out there that are willing to share some of this knowledge with you. But what have you learned? I think that difficult events help us learn about ourselves and who we are and what we care about and what our principles are, really, essentially. So who can you share what you've learned or what your knowledge is? I know that we had, during this webinar series, a great group of professionals that shared information with you guys in terms of marketing, in terms of branding, in terms of financial advice. So they were just sharing basic knowledge because they care about you. I'm sitting here and I love that people found the time to jump on and listen, even if it's just for a few minutes, you know? So I appreciate that. So who could you learn from? What insights or perspectives can you offer? And if something like this, again, was to happen, what would you do differently for you, your family, your clients, your business? How have you navigated these difficult times? And share that with your community. I mean, for the last few weeks, not just in this webinar, but experts throughout the world have been sharing valuable knowledge with everyone. I mean, if you belong to any email list, you've probably gotten 100 invites to webinars and Zoom calls and what have you. These are people that are willing to put their time out there to share information. And we've been sharing what we know and how we operate. And that's what I'm doing here with you today. And I hope this has been helpful. So that's how we're contributing. We're contributing by offering our knowledge, and other people are contributing by offering their knowledge. But you also have nuggets to contribute in challenging situations, right? So what's your expertise? What is your innate gift? We all are born with innate gifts. What are yours? So think about that, because everybody has something to bring to the table. And it could be a beautiful smorgasbord if we all came together. So contribution is extremely important. It makes us feel alive. It makes us feel significant. It makes us feel connected. It makes us just come alive, right? So contributing to humanity. So lastly, what can you contribute to humanity? I think some of the best ways, your best ways, or my best ways to contribute to humanity are to improve yourself daily. You owe it to yourself to improve yourself daily. You owe it to yourself, you owe it to your family, to your clients, to your employer, to your employees, and to humanity. I think improving yourself on a daily basis is one of the best contributions you can make to humanity. I think loving yourself enough to make your health a priority so you don't become a burden on your family is also a great way to contribute to humanity. Spread hope and not fear. That's another great way. Offer hope to humanity. We need this right now. I mean, you know this more than probably anybody else if you're on this call, and that's probably why you're on here. And lastly is help another human being by sharing your gifts and your talents. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be reading to a child. It could be helping a friend in need, to move, or it could be a colleague or a business associate, or even your competition navigate through a difficult time. You know, I have many friends in the healthcare industry, and you know what? We're here to help each other. I couldn't see every patient in the world if I wanted to. They all wanted to come see me. There's enough business, there's enough growth, there's enough money, there's enough resources for everyone to go around. So share your talents, even if it's with the competition. It's okay. You're going to be fine. I promise you. This is not a time to shrink or contract or go into fear mode and worry about things you have absolutely no control over. And let me tell you, you have control over probably, if this, 1% of the things that happen. So you think you're in control, you're absolutely not in control about anything except maybe that 1%. So don't shrink, don't contract. Let's come alive, let's grow, and stop worrying, because worrying doesn't take today's troubles away or tomorrow's troubles away. It just takes away today's peace. So look at each situation objectively and then take appropriate and logical actions. Okay? Are you guys with me so far? Do you have any questions? Let me know. So to recap, because we're coming to the end here, I want to respect everybody's time. So to recap, there are 5 keys, right? Self-awareness, which is how am I feeling and why, and how is my behavior helping or hurting? Number 2 is self-control. Am I in control or am I totally out of control? Am I being reactive? Am I being responsive? And that's going to give you a different outcome. The next one is confidence, self-confidence, in the fact that you do have all the tools needed to succeed and overcome whatever obstacle you're faced with, and this too shall pass. Number 4 is connection. You got to build and strengthen and repair relationships. Reach out. Now is the time. And I expect to hear from some of you. So reach out right now. And lastly is contribution. The secret to living, like I said, is giving. So share your innate gifts. There's always someone worse off than you. So how can you help them? How can I help you? My mission is to improve lives by educating and empowering you to get out of your own way, whether it's physically, emotionally, mentally, and sometimes even spiritually. So I'm here to help you. And I hope that you've enjoyed this presentation. I'm going to give it right back to Kristina. And if you guys have any questions, put them in the chat, or I don't know, Kristina, I'm throwing this back to you.
Awesome. Wow, guys.
I know it's a lot of information in a short period of time, and I speak really fast, but I really wanted you to get some.
In the chat.
Say again? Are you there? Hello? Kristina, we can't hear you. All right, folks. Well, thank you so much. If you're still with me, hearing and listening, I'm seeing the comments and I'm loving it. I'm so glad that you guys were able to enjoy this talk and hopefully you learned something. Kristina, I don't know what happened, but I think I lost you. Maybe you can type something. Let me see if I can type something for Kristina. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Goodrich. Okay, we'll talk soon.
Thank you.